So is this the best 5K monitor for Apple designers and creators? Let's talk about it. Welcome back to the channel. So over the last year, I've reviewed a ton of different monitors. If you watch my channel, I've done a whole bunch of new BenQ monitors that came out, a whole bunch of 32-inch ones, including, I'll put them up here, the PD3220U, great monitor. I also did the PD3225U, another professional monitor. And then we got into more consumer grade, really good 32-inch monitors from BenQ, including, it's basically the MA320U. That was a great option. And then recently I just did the 5K Asus monitor. So I've been doing a whole bunch of different monitors here just to try to see what this is all about. And BenQ now has a new 5K offering. Now, one thing to note with BenQ monitors, if you look at the code, if there's an MA in front of it, they actually say it's ideal for everyday Mac users. So it's kind of everyday users. If it's got the PD in front of it, that's more of their professional line of monitors. And those are going to have a little bit better panels. Okay, but today I wanted to introduce a brand new monitor here. This is the BenQ 5K. It's the PD2730S, and you can see it right here. But I'm going to show you a whole bunch of other pictures here throughout the video, so stay tuned for all of that. Now, what we want to answer in this question, I mean, this is made for Macs. It's got the MBook mode. We'll get into all of that. But basically, is this worth your hard-earned money? This is not going to be the cheapest monitor in its class. I'll show you a picture right here. It's around $1,199 right now. So we're going to find out, is it really worth this cost? And we're going to go through a whole bunch more. Okay, so in this video, what are we going to actually do? First, we're going to go through the build quality of it. Then we're going to go through ports. Then we're going to talk about the display and the specifications of the display, show you some examples. All this will be in the description. And then finally, my final thoughts. Is this good enough for, to warrant that money? Is it good enough, in my eyes, for professional design work and stuff like that? All right. And then also, we're going to kind of slip in here. They have an ergo arm that's brand new as well. We're going to talk about that. So the stand is really nice here, but if you don't, if you want something more than this stand, they have another option for that as well. Now, I don't want to spoil the video, but I just want to say one quick thing here so that it's in the beginning of the video. If you're a designer or a creator and you work with Macs and even Windows PCs, I do think it's worth your time and effort to take a look at this monitor. I do think it's really good for that actual specific reason. And let's get into the facts. All right, build quality. So I think overall they did a pretty good design on this. They kept it really minimal. On the front of it, it's got fairly small bezels, a little thicker one along the bottom. It does say BenQ in the left-hand corner over there, but you can't really see it. It's black on black, so it kind of fades away. So you do get a clean look. Now, actually, on the back of it, though, I think it's an attractive design as well. It is made out of a kind of a matte plastic, a white plastic. You can see back there with gray, but it matches your Macs perfectly. It looks elegant, and it's kind of a higher quality plastic as well. So I think they did a really good job with that. It does say BenQ across the top up there, and it says, I believe, designer on the little stand there. Overall, I think they nailed the design of it. And like any BenQ monitor, they nailed the stand as well. You don't need an engineering degree to actually set it up. You take the pole, you slip it into the stand, it twists on with a little screw, and then you snap it right into place. I'll show you a picture of that. And it takes literally, I would say, 25 seconds to get it out of the box and set up like that. So it's a win. All BenQ monitors are that good with the stands. No engineering degree required. Now this stand beats the Studio Display in a lot of ways because you can do almost anything with it, as I show you some pictures here. This thing can pivot 90 degrees, it can swivel 30 degrees, it can actually tilt between 5 and 20 degrees, and it actually can go all the way up at the top. You can move this all the way up so that you can fit like a MacBook under it if you want your screen above the MacBook and you see both screens at the same time. You can also flip it around if you want to do, obviously different types of viewing, if you want to look at a whole page at once. So they have a whole bunch of different options here, and you can't complain with that stand. And then finally, this does come with 2 times 3 watt speakers. Those speakers, again, are not, they're not going to be using them for professional work, but they're there in a pinch. Just wanted to note that they actually have them since people do ask. Okay, and one thing I forgot to mention too, now this is an add-on, this is not included, but if the stand over here I just showed you is not enough for you, it's a really good stand, you can upgrade. They actually have something that they just built. It's called the BenQ Ergo Arm. This is just a piece of it. It's like built like a tank. Let me just show you my screen over here, and I'll do a more extensive video on this soon. But over here you can see it. Here it is built in back over here. It's got the 100mm by 100mm VESA mount back there. And this is made to attach to your desk, like side of your desk over there. Now the claim to fame of this thing is just the structure, right? It's basically got this gas spring monitor stand. It can hold any monitor, any size, more or less, up to that 44 pounds, and there's going to never be any sagging. I can attest to that. It's just hard for me to film on my desk here without covering up my face, right? So, as you look through here, it's got huge hinges, metal everywhere. It's just really strong, and you can actually move it in almost any direction, which I'll show you. It's also got these mounts here so that it doesn't damage the desk. It's got a way you can mount it upwards or downwards, and it does not damage the desk with these pads it comes with. So I'll do a more extensive video on this. I just wanted to show you. But I mean, the reason you get this is if you want to do something like over here, take a look. You can actually have the monitor come in close to you like this. You can have it extend way out like this if if you want to move it towards your wall and bring it back out later. You can also flip it around. You can do a whole bunch of stuff with this thing. It's really cool for the cost. Now it is around 149 bucks. So obviously you have to know if you want that or not, but if you do need it, it's one of the best in class. Okay, let's talk about ports now, and this is where this monitor kind of really shines here. First of all, the power plug, it's just a standard power plug. There's no kind of power supply built into it. It's all in the monitor, which is great. And then there's 3 ways you can connect your monitor to it. There's an HDMI port over here and a display port. You can see it right over here. And then there's going to be a Thunderbolt 4 port, which is really cool. Thunderbolt 4 up to 90 watt charging here. This is going to be the middle port. I'll show you a picture of that. That's where you want to connect it to, the middle here. Now the left port over here, this is where you can actually connect the cable in here, and you can daisy chain. I think this is the first 5K monitor you can do this with. You can daisy chain a number of 5K monitors in a row, and you can actually have them just with one single cable between them. That's actually really cool. And that's what that port on the left is. The port over here on the right, let me just see what this says it is. It says that it's a USB 3.0 Gen 2 Type-C upstream port right there. So that's going to be, the port right here. Now on the bottom of it, it has a whole bunch of ports as well, because this thing also works as a KVM. So you can connect like a Windows computer and a Mac computer to this thing and switch between them with this hockey puck, which we'll get into in a second. And it's really cool actually. So you have a KVM built into it. But on the bottom, it's actually got 3 downstream USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A ports down there. It's got also a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C downstream port on the bottom. And then finally a headphone jack as well down there. So you can't go wrong with this thing. It's got just tons of connectivity, and right there alone, I give it kind of a 5 out of 5 on connectivity and ports. And that's where I get into this little hockey puck it comes with. A lot of these upper level BenQ monitors have this. This thing took it to a new level. It's fully wireless. There's no cord. It also takes batteries, and they give you the batteries. So what you can do, there's a couple numbers on here, but you can fully program this in to do a lot of different things, like switch between applications. You can switch your modes, different modes of your monitor. You can go ahead and just, the sky's the limit with this thing. You can change settings on the monitor, like brightness and stuff. It all works great with this little hockey puck. I'm not going to get into too many details, but you can go to the BenQ website and take a look at this. They go through all the specs on it. I just think it's a great addition, something extra you get that you don't get with a lot of other manufacturers. Okay, let's talk about the star of the show now, the actual screen here, which is incredible. So what do we have? We have a 27-inch 5K resolution. I'll show you pictures as I'm talking about it. It's 218 pixels per inch, and it's an IPS panel. A lot of people always ask me that. Only 60 hertz though. Now nobody's been able to crack that yet. So all 5K screens now are 60 hertz. So I can't, you can't complain there, but it does have an ultra fast response time of 5 milliseconds, and it works really well. Now on paper, the screen says it's up to about 400 nits of brightness, and it's got VESA HDR 400. Now, obviously it's bright enough. I think it's fairly bright. I use it at about 70 or 60%. I like my monitors fairly bright. Now it's not as bright as the Asus. Let me just show you a chart here. All right, so if you look at this chart, this is by PCWorld.com, and they did a test of everything, so I'm just going to show it to you. Here's the BenQ right here, the 5K, 400. They got up to 485 nits of brightness, which actually beats the 400 they're talking about. Here's the Asus over here, which gets up to 578. But again, we're going to get into the difference here, but I think they're both bright enough. This is obviously a little bit brighter, but you can see overall, compared to some of these Dells and Philips down here, it does a pretty good job with brightness, and I haven't really had to ask for much more. All right, so the contrast ratio is 2,000 to 1, and it's really, really good. So you're going to get extremely deep blacks on this, all right? So I'm going to show you some pictures here of deep blacks, and you can see how deep they are. Now, it's hard to film this because there's going to be I have to have some lights on. You might get some reflections, but the panels are really uniform, and that's the thing. When it's black, and you don't see a lot of like blooming or anything like that on the screens in real life. So I think this is where the professional designation comes in. This is made, again, for designers and creators, and they nail the contrast ratio and the deep blacks. This also does have they call it a nano matte panel. They say it makes it ideal for managed workflows, and things like that, because you don't get the glares and stuff like that. Obviously, this is not glossy, so you got to be used to a matte screen. But overall, it just took me a day or so to get used to, and now I love it. Okay, so when they ship you the monitor, and I'll show you some pictures of the box here, it comes all nicely packaged, but in there's a little black envelope in there, and you slip a little piece of paper out, and they actually did a calibration report, and they say that all these monitors are under a delta E of 2, and the lower it is, the better. So mine actually came through, and you can see it right here. Mine had a 0.48, so quite a bit under 2, and that means that like the colors and everything else is going to be very, very accurate there. So I was very pleasantly surprised with that, and that was one of the best reports I've gotten out of any of the BenQ monitors so far. Now, the reason this is really for professional work is it's got some really good, designations here. It's got 98% display P3 color space, and it's got an MBook mode for people like on the Mac and stuff like that. So it's ideal for, really designers and creators that use Macs and Windows PCs for the most part. I just like to use MBook mode, which we'll talk about. It's 100% sRGB and 100% Rec 709 compatible as well. So those are really high numbers in the color accuracy. And then talking about color accuracy, it says right here, validated by a third party. So it's Calman and Pantone certified, I guess. Pantone Skin Tone validated. That's another one. SolidWorks and then Tubbs certified as well. So it's got a lot of certifications going for it. Now, if you want to calibrate this yourself and you have a professional calibrator, you can actually do that. So they actually says right here, they have some software that you can do yourself. It's called the Palette Master Ultimate software. I can show you some little pictures of it. You can download that and it says that you can calibrate it in about 5 minutes or so. So it's really easy to do there. Now, if you don't have a calibrator and you want to just, you don't want to just use the MBook mode, which matches it to your MacBook, you can go ahead and use something called Display Color Talk as well. It's another simple software that you can do this in another 5 or 10 minutes, and you don't need the actual calibration device that walks you through the whole process. So really good and really catering towards these professionals that need accurate color. And then it's also got a lot of professional modes. Like I said, the MBook mode matches it directly to your Mac. I'll show you a picture of how that can do it. It's also got, let me see here, a lot of other modes. DCI P3 mode, Rec 709 mode, sRGB mode, animation mode, CAD mode. I mean, the list goes on. Dual view mode, picture-in-picture mode, blue light. It's got blue light technology built into it, and also flicker-free technology. So it's got all those designations, and it's just really a clear picture. The text is ultra sharp. Now, the other thing that it has is something called Display Pilot 2. It's a piece of software you download, and I'll show you some pictures of this as well. But once you download it, it makes it basically act like a Apple Studio display. You can actually change the brightness and things on the monitor like that just from the keyboard of your Mac. It also has in the upper right-hand corner, you can adjust all the settings, including resolutions and brightness and everything in between modes and everything right from the screen of the Mac. You don't have to actually go down to these little buttons on the monitor. We all know how much that's a pain in a lot of monitors because you never know what they are. This is actually going to be built right into the upper right of your screen there. So it's a really good feature for they have this software for a lot of their PD line of models and pretty much all of their models really. But I think it's awesome. So it's one of the things that make it different than a lot like companies like Asus and stuff like that out there. They have this software that really makes it feel like it's made for a Mac. Okay, now my personal experience with this monitor right here is I just set it, as soon as I get it out of the box, I set it to MBook mode and it looks flawless. All right, it matches my Macs perfectly. It's nice on my eyes. I can do my video editing. But the beauty of this thing is if you need to go with those other modes, like you have to want to calibrate it yourself, or you want to use a device, or you want to do it without the device, it's got all of that built into it. So this is the perfect monitor for professionals where you're making some money back from what you're doing. It's going to be a little bit more with BenQ monitors, but you always get more. You get a better panel overall, and we'll talk about that. Now, this monitor, when I unboxed it right away, it blew me away as far as the clarity on it. So you look at it, the text is ultra clear. It's obviously that 5K resolution. But the thing that they do that's, BenQ's known for is they don't just ship a million panels out. They must test them extensively because every panel you get is completely uniform from corner to corner, meaning when you're looking at blacks or you're looking at whites, there's no dark spots, light spots. It's just something that you can tell right away. This is, I think, better than the Asus on that. It's more professionally done. Now, you're going to pay more money, obviously, but it's got a better panel overall as far as uniformity. So this, again, comes back to professional work, right? You don't want different colors in different spots, and this really handles that nicely. Now, you do have to like matte screens as well, though. If you're used to glossy screens coming from a studio display and stuff, it takes a little bit of getting used to here. I mean, I won't lie to you. It definitely takes maybe a couple days, and then finally it just sinks in. Lights don't bounce off it. It actually works really well. Now, the blacks, again, I want to just show you some more pictures here, but it's basically got a 2,000:1 contrast ratio, which is really high for the industry, especially for monitors like this. And while it's hard to show on the camera, I mean, obviously I'm going to be filming again, and you're looking through a different resolution, monitor yourself. You're not looking through probably a 5K or an 8K monitor, but you can see what this really means here. And this is what you're going to get in a monitor like this. So when you get like a monitor that's not going to be at this price range, you're going to get some blooming on the side effects. You're going to look at it from the side. It's not going to be, side angle is going to be a lot more distorted. Here you're going to get that quality that you're actually paying up for. And this slots in between the studio display and that Asus monitor. So it could be a good fit for a lot of professionals that are looking for just a little bit more and have the money to spend it because they're making money from what they're doing. I mean, just looking at these, like, obviously you can take a look here. I mean, the movies that you watch and the images that you're creating come off really well. So you can tell exactly what they're going to look like to the other people that are using the same type of technology to look at it. So for YouTube creators, I think this is a great option. If you're making good money from your YouTube, that's one good option. But for photographic designers and things like that, if you work for companies where you do a lot of design work, and you have to be able to trust with 100% certainty that the colors on here are going to be exactly like the colors that the company that's hiring you wanted on their ads and stuff. This can do it. And just to prove to you, here's PC World again, some of their stats that they ran. Here's the first one, the contrast ratio. They actually got 2070, but you can see it's higher than the Asus here. They also did a test here called the average color error, lower is better. And you can see where the BenQ is right here compared to all the other monitors on here. So overall, that's a pretty big difference as far as color accuracy. So I think I've proven my point. Now you may ask yourself, the Studio Display is like $15.99. This is going to be around $11.99. So what's going to be the difference? Should I get the Studio Display? Well, I have to be honest in these videos now. The build quality of this obviously isn't going to match the Studio Display because obviously Apple is good at that. It's all metal and all that stuff. This is going to be more of a plastic. But, I'm going to show you a little matrix here. You do get a lot of other things with this. And you can see that things are more documented with this screen. You can pause it here and just take a look at some of the differences, but they are substantial when you're thinking about it. Now, again, it just depends what you like, glossy versus matte. That's a big thing. But if you take that off the table, you can see some of the, the color calibrations and stuff that they're actually doing from BenQ here versus the Studio Display, at least what they're documenting. So overall, you know what you're getting here, where there's some mystery with the Studio Display. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up, but I just wanted to say, so at the end of the day, what is this compared to the Asus as well? I think this is going to just be a better uniform panel overall, but if you're just a normal user, you may not care about that, but here I think, obviously it makes a big difference when you're looking, when you're kind of pixel peeping at everything. I think it's going to make a difference to a lot of people there. All right, let's wrap this up now. I've used a ton of BenQ monitors. I have them sitting around here and they all work flawlessly. I've never had any problems with them technically or, just the build quality. So I do recommend them. They have a whole bunch of different models coming out. They have one, for instance, it's called the BenQ PD2706QN. It's only a 1440p monitor, but it's great. There's a whole bunch of different options out there from the high end to the low end, but they just make good quality stuff. So I have to recommend this. This I think is a little bit better than the Asus 5K, and you have to weigh, is it worth the extra money? Of course, if you're doing professional work and you're making a lot of money back, that should be a no-brainer, but it's all up to the consumer, right? So you guys have to go out and test it. There's a whole bunch of things you can do testing this as far as looking at all the reviews that are out there. Don't just trust me. I'm only one person. My eyes are only my eyes, right? Do your own research like always, and we will talk to you in the next one. Peace.